Okay, let's see what Jesus has to say to us today. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and we are very proud of you all. We are very proud of you all for giving this dear being the opportunity to try and figure out technologies that at times can be very, very frustrating for her. She just wants to do the work. She doesn't really want to bother with all this stuff. And so that is why we have been behind encouraging her to get technical help. And this is a great shift that is coming to this work because of the willingness of our dear one to attend what was a very intense business development program this week. She did not plan on it, but we were setting up synchronicities and we were getting other people to invite her to come to it so that she could get help. This year is going to be a year where this work expands tremendously. This being has done a lot of preparatory physical and non-physical preparations for this expansion. And this expansion is going to herald a big change for her. We have given her a heads up, we have given her a warning, and she knows that something big is coming, and all of this shift and change will be in preparation for a huge expansion of the distribution of this work. We want to thank all of you for being brave enough and for investing in this work, this investment that you have made, putting your money towards supporting the transmission of this work is the money that is allowing this being to pay for help. So our dear one pretty much does the same thing each week. She produces a lot of work. As you know, she is doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles at our request, even though she did not know at the time that it was us that was pushing her to do it. This is in preparation for the changes and transformations and difficulties that you are all going to be witnessing on this planet. But as brilliant Course in Miracles students, you are not getting as upset as everybody else. You are learning that you can look upon the world and not react to every single disaster, not react to every single little prompt that the mainstream media give you to get upset. And we want you to understand, as Course in Miracles students, that you never need to be upset at the world to transform it. In fact, any upset at the world will give you a lesser influence rather than a greater influence. So we do not want you to think or feel that when you do not react, that you do not care. The opposite is true. When you bring your wonderful, wonderful trained minds into compliance with your own wishes and saying, yes, I can see that that happened across the world and that it is causing distress for other human beings. But you do not have to go down that lower frequency rabbit hole believing that you are helping people, because you are not. You are helping people by observing and saying, this means that I must do my work more diligently, that I must follow my passions and guidance more diligently, and that I trust that I will be led on a path to the most effective place for me. Now, some of you will assume that the most effective place may be front and center on stage somewhere, but that is not true. There are only a few beings that will be given that assignment. There will only be a few beings who are going to write books or produce movies or produce television shows. There are many, many assignments given to humans in this place and time that are less than shiny. They may be gardening. They may be cultivating a habit of presence that you are going to be teaching other beings. And yet it may seem to be a very calm and quiet pursuit without any fanfare, without any fame whatsoever. And you may think, here I am doing my pottery and my meditation and doing this art class, and this doesn't seem as if I'm helping the planet, but your calmness, your equanimity, your forgiveness practice, your contact with everybody, and the energetic contact you have with those that you don't meet. You don't understand how this creative expression of God mind works. Every single time you choose love instead of fear, you change everything. So we want you to really grasp the importance of your practice. We want you to really grasp the uniqueness of this being's practice, that it's not designed for everyone. And those of you that don't want to channel, or those of you that don't want to do anything in the public eye, are not meant to. If you were meant to, you would want to. So we really want you to relax into being yourself, this peaceful, creative, self-expressive, learning and expanding being. And trust that along the way, you will be guided very, very specifically for the assignment that you have signed up for. Yes, you have all signed up for an assignment. You are all God's teachers now. You would not be on this call if you were not one of God's teachers. And so relax into knowing that you are going to have the experiences you need to clarify your mind and for you to see where you are off track. So we want to speak about this a little bit today, because our dear one has had a very intensive training program over the last couple of decades because of the work that she agreed to do before she was born into this incarnation. This is a lifetime assignment. And when something, we will say, quote unquote, goes wrong in your life, we really want you to look at the things it brings up in you that no other situation could bring up in you. So for example, if you get fired from a job and financial fear arises and a lack of confidence is expressed, or a loss of prestige because you had a fancy job and now you've been fired from it and you are no longer getting the kudos and strokes for being in that fancy job. We want you to look at those as opportunities to see aspects of your own minds that were hidden from you. And the only way that they could be revealed to you was through this particular experience. And it is very easy, because of the training programs in your society, to say, when I'm robbed or I'm attacked or I'm cheated on or I'm lied to or I am fired, that these are bad things and they shouldn't have happened. That is not true. They have happened, and so there is some benefit in the situation for you if you look at it the right way. And as this clarification process of your society continues on intensively and getting more and more intense, it is very important for all of you to understand that situations that you deem bad may be given to you so that you can have revealed to you that which you have hidden from yourselves your whole life. So we do not want you to get scared and anticipate things that have not yet happened. But when and or if something happens that you consider quote unquote bad, step back from judgment as quickly as you can. Because when you judge it, when it triggers fear in you, you are not going to be clearly thinking. You are going to be using the primitive part of your brain, the ego part, which is the fight or flight response. That means you're going to attack someone or run away, either physically or dissociate from the situation. We would really like you to use this knowledge that we are imparting to you today to look at the situation and say, wow, I'm feeling fear because of the scenario that I'm making up in my mind and projecting into the future. I'm feeling fear because I'm telling a story. Oh, I'm not going to make it. People are going to laugh at me. I'm going to lose everything. Whatever that story is, please, please be aware of the story. Any movies that you are witnessing in your head, in your mind's eye, are not real. They are fantasies. Stay in your body using breath, using touch. You can touch your hands. If you find yourself panicking because a situation has arisen that you think is bad and that is going to have very negative consequences for you in your mind's eye, remember, you don't know what the consequences truly are going to be. You can use your body to bring you into presence. You can use it by touching, gripping, making a fist and focusing on that. That will bring you into this moment, and the mind cannot do two things at once. If you give the mind a job to do, focusing on the breathing, focusing on the feeling of a clenched fist, walking, focusing on your footsteps, it cannot fantasize. It can only do one thing. And so if you have a troublesome situation and it is bothering you and you're feeling the stories being generated in your mind, do these things that bring you into the present moment. Do these things that connect you to the now, where, generally speaking, nothing bad is happening. 99.9% of your fears are not real. They are fantasies. And even when something drastic happens in your life, a partner saying they want a divorce, the loss of a job, all kinds of things, there is an immediate response in the untrained mind to make up a story about what this is going to mean to your whole life. It is a fantasy. It is simply a fantasy. There is nothing true about it when you do those exercises and come back to the room in which you are sitting or standing or lying down. It can be in your bedroom too. You realize that you are reacting to a world that does not exist. This is a fundamental practice for all of you that you can use all the time. Because any time that you are upset about something that is not happening in this moment, it is a fantasy and you are causing that upset yourself. Now, many beings will say, well, if I've lost my job, of course it's natural to worry. Well, it is natural to have some reaction, but if you have trained your mind, it is not natural to let your mind run away with stories. That is an untrained mind's excuse. And we want you to understand that you will benefit from not worrying, even if something quote unquote bad has happened to you or is happening to you. Let's say a divorce, for example. Your partner approaches you and says, I'm unhappy. I have been unhappy for a long time. I'd like a divorce. Of course, you can ask to discuss it or try and stop it. But if it's happening, you are well served to note the fantasies that you are having. They may very well reveal to you your fear, your financial fears. They may very well reveal to you the lack of personal power you have. Perhaps you've been depending on this person to take care of you in a way that frightens you to do that yourself. And this situation may be coming to you because you do need to learn to step into your own power. You do need to learn to look after yourself. It is something that has been lacking in you. It is something that has frightened you. And as these energies escalate, more and more of you are going to be asked through circumstances to step up into your power, your personal power. That means the love for yourself, the caring for yourself, treating yourself well, perhaps educating yourself more deeply in a subject that you're passionate about, perhaps pursuing a passion that you've put off for a long time. These are all ways that you can stand in your power more fully. And this is what the new earth is going to require of all of you. It is going to require all of you to become less dependent on government situations or even marital situations. There's nothing wrong with interdependence, but there is a price to be paid for severe codependence. And so when these difficult situations arise, in whatever form that is, we want you to look at it as an opportunity. So we are going to go exactly into what our dear one has been through in the last few weeks. YouTube changing their format. Too difficult for her. She couldn't figure it out. Experts counseled her against figuring it out. So she contacted technicians who showed her things that have been very valuable. It made her see that she needed to upgrade some skills. And so she became willing to take this business class. And so now this business class has hooked her up with some very, very talented people who are going to help facilitate the expansion of this business. Now, she could have just lamented and wrung her hands and been all anxious. There was a little anxiety when the call failed a month ago. That is for sure, and that's okay. But instead of plummeting down into powerlessness, she sought help, she got some education, and she signed up for more education, so that instead of feeling as if she had no control over the technical side of her business, she now has increasing control over the technical side of her business. So that's a perfect little microcosm of the kinds of situations many of you will encounter over the next months, because you are now going to be forced, and yet it is in alignment with your will. Remember, if you are doing A Course in Miracles, you are asking for every unloving thing in your mind to be let go of. You are asking to be shown all of the blocks to your awareness of love's presence. If you are severely dependent on somebody and it frightens you that they may leave you, you may very well have that experience because you don't want to feel that fear. You don't want that block in your mind. So the Course says your greatest strengths are hidden under your darkest fears. Today, we want you all, once this call is over or when you're listening to it in recorded form, we would like all of you to write down your darkest fears. We would like all of you to write down those things that you do not want to have happen. And we would like you to investigate what belief underlies that fear. So for example, I don't want to lose my high-paying job. Underneath that fear, what is going on underneath that fear? I will not be able to survive if I don't make this much money. I will not be able to live in the way that I want to live if I don't make this much money. But there's a huge assumption there, isn't there? That if you lose that job, that you will not make that much money. We want to point that out to you. The same thing can happen. My greatest fear is that my partner would be unfaithful to me and leave me. What scenario comes up in your mind if that fantasy is indulged in? I'm going to be alone forever. That's an interesting assumption to make, isn't it? That's an interesting thought to be generated and believed. Question those thoughts. Ask yourself, what is going on beneath the surface as it relates to this fear? And all of you will have some fears, and we want you to actively go into them for a little while. We're not asking you to indulge in the fear. We're asking you to investigate the fear and question the thoughts and beliefs that you have that promote that fear. Remember, all fears are self-created. You make them. You want them on some level. There's something within you that is generating that fear to keep a part of you small, to keep a part of you unexpressed. And now is the time, as Course in Miracles students, for you to proactively investigate your fears, proactively investigate those things that you don't want to have happen, because they most likely will. And this is not a threat. This is not something we say to you to frighten you. We are merely saying that if it's an unloving aspect of your consciousness, if it's an unloving part of you, then it will be revealed to you. And we would suggest that you begin to investigate it preemptively so that the situation is not unconsciously manifested. Begin to go into those fears consciously. Begin to go into your codependence with somebody. Begin to go into your fear of losing your job. Begin to go into your financial fears. Work with yourself to begin to understand why you're generating those fears. So what's going to happen out in society is that those beings that are not as wise as you, that have not been doing this work, this deep internal work of clarification, all of their darkness, all of their shadows, all of their fears are going to be coming to the surface rapidly as the energies increase. And so we want you to feel gratitude that you have been doing the work that as long as you have, that you have been questioning those negative reactions you have, that you have been practicing your forgiveness practice, even with those beings that have hurt you, that you are more aware of your own contribution now to your own suffering so that you don't exacerbate it. And so we will take a short break and come back in a little while. All right. Where's my chat? Okay, I can see everybody. Is everybody still seeing and hearing me clearly? Please type yes if you can. Oh, wonderful. Lots of yeses. Yes, yes. That's great. Okay. Let me just have a little sip of tea here. I am now 4 months caffeine free, and I'm very proud of that. I had a 60-year tea habit. I was given a tea in a bottle when I was a baby. And I feel like I've nailed it. So 4 months, no tea or coffee. All right, let's get to some of these questions have built up over the last couple of weeks. So we'll get to as many as we can. So here is my question. As a budding teacher of non-dualism and frequent video blogger, I would love to hear from Jesus or Ananda about how I can share lovingly with those who are frightened by what is unfolding, yet do not understand the nature of this reality. Okay, that's a very good question. Let's see what Ananda has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And this question was my question. So I interrupted there, and Ananda is a little confused. These teachings are for you to share. That is why our dear one has put them up, all those videos up for free on YouTube. So one of the ways that you can help others understand this definition of reality and unreality that the Course in Miracles puts forth is to begin with very, very simple ideas that are logical to beings now in this time and place. So, for example, the idea of the law of attraction is becoming very, very popular in your society and much less woo-woo, as you say. So, for example, you will easily be able to talk to people about positive attitudes, creating positive feelings. This is a very, very simple way of doing it. You can also go through some of the videos and look at some of the principles that are being shared and do a little translation work. So for example, the idea of forgiveness as freeing your mind rather than letting the other person off the hook. It's not a full description of the powerful quantum forgiveness that the Course in Miracles asks you to participate, where you understand that you have co-created the situation with that person, and therefore you are equally responsible for the presence of that situation in your life. There are many people who are not ready to hear that, but you can get them to understand through partial translation of these videos that Things happen to you because you're a match for that frequency. Things happen to you because if you're constantly negative, then you are going to be perceived as negative, and therefore the happy, cheerful, nice experiences are probably not going to come your way as often. So it's very easy to simplify this without going into the total worldview of A Course in Miracles. This is what many of your most famous spiritual teachers are actually doing in their productions on YouTube and on their websites. Many of them have studied A Course in Miracles and really are A Course in Miracles translators. They are giving you that information just in a different way. So get creative and use your intelligence to translate it, and trust that you will be guided in that process. Anyone who is working with this material, anyone who is genuinely connected to A Course in Miracles and seeking to share that material will be guided. We will guide you. So before you write your script for your blog, do a little meditation, do a little prayer, ask for guidance, and trust. Trust the feelings that come through, trust the writings that come through, and know that you will be inspired. We will return shortly. That doesn't happen very often, where I say Ananda's coming in and Jesus does so. We are always getting inner guidance towards joy, creation, love, which inspires or nudges us to change jobs or move, go back to school and change a relationship, etc. How does this differ from chasing idols? Idols are from the ego, yet higher guidance comes from spirit. When are we making life changes out of higher guidance versus chasing idols of the ego and seeking salvation out in the world instead of within? So, for example, I'm feeling guided to move and also change jobs. Am I chasing idols of the ego and forgetting salvation comes from me? Or am I honestly just listening to my own divine guidance, telling me it's time to evolve and change, which will start to create an experience of happy dreams? If peace comes from within, why would we need to change our lives to align with love? Can we continue looking for happiness in this world while still finding it within? Very good question. I'm just going to give you a little personal example of that. I hope it doesn't annoy anyone, but it popped into my mind. So I used to be obsessed with ranch life, horses, fringe suede jackets, cowboy boots, the whole horsey ranch thing. And lo and behold, I manifested a job offer as a ranch manager about 8 or 9 years ago. And I spent a year on that ranch, and it completely dissolved any fantasies I had about ranch life, about what it's like to go riding every day, about cowboys and Indians and all kinds of things that I had as idols in my mind, that I thought, well, if I had all those things, then I would be happy. It was not a total loss, however, because living on that ranch in a remote location required me to really use my A Course in Miracles trained mind. So both things happened. I had fantasies dissolved. So those idols are no longer idols that I worship. I no longer fantasize about living on a ranch and looking very good in my nice little fringe jacket as I gallop across the wild lands. And that was a fantasy I had. I know the reality of ranch life. It's hard, it's hot, it's cold, it's dusty. It's very hard work, and the days are very long. So that was an idol that got shattered. And yet in the same experience, I had a most wonderful opportunity to master my mind. And when I came down from that ranch, I was fearless. I had shot wild animals. I had lived in the dark. I snow plowed 4 feet of snow in the morning. I had had this amazing, empowering experience And so both can be true. That's my little story about that. And let's see what Ananda has to say about chasing idols and following guidance. No, we're with you again, dear ones. That is indeed true. You are given passions. You are given interests. You are given things that delight you. And you are given things that interest you. Some of them are permanent things. For example, our dear one has always been interested in art and always will be interested in art. It is something that she decided to deeply embed in this incarnation. But some things come and go. For example, ranch life. So one of the reasons that we get you to pursue your interests and passions is that some of them contain the very things that you need to let go of. So, for example, if you imagine our dear one not taking that job and not going to a ranch and not feeling the truth of what that life is like, she would still be thinking, if only I could go to a ranch, I would be happy. If only I could ride horses all day, I would be happy. She now has had that experience. That idol has been dissolved, and she does not waste her energy and time anymore thinking that fantasy. And one of the aspects of this being that has allowed her to do this work is that she followed a lot of her idols. She went to tropical islands, she traveled, she did adventures, she became an artist, she became a cartographer, she did all of the things that she wanted to do, much to the consternation of some of the people around her at times. But because she did chase her idols and because she did throw herself into those adventures, she is under no illusions as to what any of those things are like now. And this is one of the qualities that allows her to do this work, because she is not distracted by those idols anymore. They have been dissolved and they have been let go of. It does not mean that she does not enjoy doing certain things. She does. But there are very few idols left in this being's mind to take her away from the purpose that she has organized for herself in this incarnation. So one of the ways that your clarification happens is you chasing your idols. You must chase your idols, you see, because when you have a passion and interest, something that intrigues you, it means that there is work in that area for you to do. And it may just be that you have to let go of the fantasy of that thing making you happy. Some people have the fantasy that the perfect partner will make them happy. And they get into a relationship and they find, well, this person isn't the perfect partner. So I'm going to ditch this person. And oh, look, there's another good looking specimen over there. I'm going to go into a relationship with that person because they have a belief, a fantasy, an idol that the only way to happiness for them is to have a partner who makes them happy. And sure enough, that person is imperfect as well, and on and on and on it goes. Some people will go through 10, 20, 30, 40 partners before they realize that their idol is a lie. It is a fantasy. It is not true. They have not met the perfect partner. All of these relationships are not making them happy. And in that moment, when that penny drops, they become teachable. They think, well, maybe there's another way. Maybe there's a better way than this relentless revolving door of relationships that I'm involved in. This belief I have cannot be true because it keeps failing. It keeps failing. It keeps failing. And this is what your early incarnational years are for, your 20s and 30s and sometimes 40s and 50s. People will continue on chasing their idols. If only I get to a certain weight, then I will be perfect and then life will be happy. It doesn't work that way. And yet you have to give it a go. You have to give it a shot because that's what this place is for. You came here to chase your idols. You came here to experience the individual self that you believe you are. And there is nothing wrong with listening to those passions, listening to those desires, because they will eventually reveal themselves to you. But as you do your forgiveness practice, you are eliminating from your mind the lower frequency beliefs and ideas that will cause difficulty. And so the path is made smoother for you. You can actually, when you've been doing your forgiveness practice for a while, you can follow those things that you're interested in. Yes, they may still be idols. Yes, you may still think, oh, if only I owned a house in the Bahamas, then I would be happy. And you may go, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and buy a house in the Bahamas so that I can live out that fantasy. I want to have that experience. And we say, go for it. We say, do it. If that's what you feel with every fiber of your being, do it. And you will get to feel what it is like to live in the Bahamas. And you will no longer be living in the fantasy version of it. You will be living in the real version of it. And it will most likely shatter your idol. Because living where it is extremely hot all the time gets a little boring. There are a lot of negatives to living in hot climates. There are a lot of negatives to living in climates where hurricanes hit regularly. There are a lot of negatives to living in countries that are portrayed as paradise, but in fact are third world countries. And all of the things that go along with that, poor services, bad food delivery systems, all kinds of things, police corruption, crime. So we say to you, this is one of those things where we would like you to relax and say, you know what, that's what I'd like to experience. That's exactly what our dear one did. And we encouraged her to experience her ranch life fantasy. It was very, very good for her. It was empowering, and it was enlightening, and it was informative. And you need not fear that even though you're chasing something that you think is going to be just positive, it will come with its fair share of your negatives, because they are traveling with you regardless of where you go or what you do. The negative beliefs in your mind are going to manifest. So we say, have fun, do what you love, and when you get a lesson, a tough lesson, a difficult lesson, be grateful for it, and be grateful that you are seeing an aspect of your mind that previously was hidden from you. We will return shortly. Okay. Let me just see. Oh, our fancies. Horsey ranch thing. Yeah, I loved it. It was great. And it was exhausting, and I don't want to do it again. Okay. Sip of tea time. For many of us, English is not our native local language, but we know English quite well. Is it preferable to order the English version of A Course in Miracles or a translation in our own language? Is it recommended to order any supplementary books to understand it better? In comments, I put some titles. Oh, I missed that. Should we read the 6 books channeled by Tina when doing A Course in Miracles at the same time, or first read her books? Okay, let's see what Jesus has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And the reason that this being was asked to channel those books was because there were issues that were interfering with being's willingness and understanding of A Course in Miracles. So there have been several books that have been inspired by us through various authors to assist you and to support you in your Course in Miracles studies. So in each of the books that this being has penned for us and for Ananda and for other beings, subjects come up that are big blocks in the collective consciousness. Ideas such as sexuality and sexual energy, ideas such as death, dying, and the afterlife, ideas such as what love is, for example, ideas about schooling and education and extraterrestrials, ideas about wars and past Holocaust events. These are all big ideas that can really interfere with the transformation of mind that the Course in Miracles is destined to produce, should you follow its precepts. So we would like you all to read all of the books. We would like you not to judge a book by its cover. Some people won't read the Making Love to God book because they have sexual issues that cause them discomfort as soon as they look at the title. And of course, those are the ones that should read the book because they have an immediate block that becomes apparent. They are ashamed of the title, for example. They might wrap it in brown paper. This tells you that you care far more about what other people think about you than what you think about you. A good lesson for you. So we would like you to read all of the books. Some people have not read the Great Minds book because they think it's too frivolous. They think it's too celebrity focused. But there are profound and wonderful messages in that book. That reaction to that book may show you, oh, I'm very easily put off by modern ideas. I think there are only serious ideas or frivolous ideas, but maybe there can be profound messages conveyed in funny or frivolous or less than somber subjects. A little bit of giggle therapy might suit that person. And of course, the Jesus book shatters a lot of ideas that you may have unknowingly in your mind that are preventing you from studying A Course in Miracles. The timing is less relevant. If you want to read them concurrently, you can. If you want to read them before A Course in Miracles, you can. But read them and do your lessons and know that it is the practice. It is the practice of forgiveness. It is the practice of loving yourself. It is the practice that is going to change your world. It is not the theoretical mulling over of ideas that is going to do that. It is you employing those principles and ideas throughout your day, making yourself more in alignment with your guidance. Now, our dear one had a very interesting conversation this week about somebody who felt that they were a bit too tough, a little bit too hard on people. And this person had an encounter with a spiritual teacher. That spiritual teacher asked them, what are you working on right now? And this person said, I'm working on being kinder and gentler. And through a series of interactions, it turned out that they were designed perfectly for the job that they were doing. They were forthright. They were truth speakers. They were the kind of being that really ruffled feathers. And that was their assignment. It was not to be sweet and gentle and kind to everybody in the way that never ever caused a ripple on the water's surface. But they were catalysts. They were required through the purpose that was assigned to them to be strong and empowered and truth-seeking and truth-speaking. And so that person was judging the way they were, saying, I'm too much, I'm too this, I'm too that. Our dear one did the same thing. But what she has come to realize is that the qualities of personality that she has always possessed are perfect for this job. The personality that she had and has was designed specifically for this job. And no, it didn't fit in some other areas of her life. But when she went through the clarification process of the lessons, when she went through the clarification process of coming to understand the principles of A Course in Miracles, reducing her desire to attack, reducing her hateful thoughts about herself, those personality traits took on an evolved feel rather than the unevolved aspect. She began to experience the evolved aspect that matched this work. And so now those self-recriminations, those judgments do not happen because she knows she was made for this job. And many of the experiences of her life have made her better at this job. And so there is not a constant, I should have, I could have, Why don't I do this? She has tuned in to a frequency of profound acceptance and love for what is coming through her. But it was hard earned. There were a lot of years of intense forgiveness practice that brought her to this state. So we want to encourage you to do the work, to read the books and practice, practice, practice. Don't let those little upsets go by and think, oh, it's not important. Those people are just annoying. Go into it. Stop looking at the annoying people and go, what in me is being annoyed? There's that short-temperedness. I'm always so impatient. Why am I so impatient? What does time mean to me? Why am I always in such a hurry? And why do I get so frustrated with people who are slow? Look at that aspect of yourself and figure it out. We will return shortly. All right, nice. Oh, they didn't ask about the language. Let me go back in. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And we want to pass comment here on our dear one's mind. It was our dear one's focus there that prevented the answering of that question. And that is a very good example of how the channel can affect the channeled material. It is not interfering in the quality of it, but it can get caught up in a trajectory and we will say get too excited and push the response in a particular direction. So it's not necessarily an interference or a judgment. It's about enthusiasm causing a shift in direction. So if your first language is not English, we would say to you, which language are you most comfortable in? Which language do you speak spontaneously? If someone asks you a question, what's the thought process? Is it in English or is it in your own native language? It is a very, very personal decision. Only you will know which book is easier to read. Only you will know which translation or which language that you respond to more fully, more with greater depth and understanding. So we would leave that up to you. There is no fast and firm answer to that. It is a personal one depending on your mastery of the language. We will return shortly. Okay. Can Jesus please assist with what we should do with regards to smart meters about our power utility is planning to begin shortly converting all of its customers to? Okay, smart meters. I live on Salt Spring Island and we have a lot of revolutionaries here, and we went through the smart meter thing a few years ago, and people stood firm and refused, and the power company charged them extra per month, $40 or something, and they had to go through all kinds of papers and they had to go through all kinds of forms. But my understanding from that, and I am in Canada, so it may depend on the laws of your country, is that you can say no, and that there may be a process of appeal that you can go through where you refuse to have them on your house and request that you keep the analog or the old-fashioned systems that you have. Anyway, that's just what happened here, and we have some very, very staunch health nuts and radical anarchists on Salt Spring. So they did not go down without a fight. No, we're with you again, dear ones. What's happening in your society is a great reflection of powerlessness. So when you look at the world as the world, an objective reality that you have nothing to do with, you say, they're bullying me, there's nothing I can do, they're going to sue me, they're going to take me to court. In a situation such as this, we would suggest you do exactly as some of the beings on Salt Spring did. And that is to say, write to the power company and say that you are refusing permission for them to come onto your property to change that, and you would like to have an exemption, and you would like to go through that process. And we would suggest that you even contact a civil rights lawyer of some kind and find out what the law is about a power company being able to attach dangerous and health-threatening systems to the home that you live in. We would like you to investigate that. We would like you to be more empowered, more informed. If you find that there are higher laws of the land that say that a power company cannot infringe upon your free rights as a homeowner, then we would suggest that you gather together a group of you. There may be 50 of you in your town that say, we do not want smart meters, we're not going to have it. We care for the health of our children and we care for the health of ourselves and we do not want them. Get together and find a lawyer that may even do pro bono work for you and stand your ground. This is the rewilding of your society. You have all been domesticated, you've all been trained in education systems, global education systems that all look remarkably similar, and they all have remarkably similar results, which is you don't stand up and say, I'm not going to do this. You've been trained for over a decade in doing as you're told and getting good marks for doing as you're told, getting great rewards for doing as you're told, getting better jobs for doing as you're told, getting love from your parents for doing as you're told. So when you are trained in a system like that, you will do as you are told. What's happening now is the powers that be are overriding your own free will to such a degree that spirit in you, the spiritual part of you, that freedom-seeking, creative, freedom-loving part of you says, hang on a second, you are going too far. And it will speak up through your feelings. And you see this in the environmental movement now. You are seeing younger people breaking the rules, saying, we're not going to go to school, we're not going to do what you want us to do because your policies are killing this planet and we are not going to stand for it anymore. They are not as domesticated, and they in fact came in as revolutionary leaders, and they will change the system. They will change it because they are going to be voting very, very soon, and they are not going to do what many of the previous generations have done, which is say, okay, well, there's nothing we can do about it except vote somebody else in. Some of these young revolutionaries know the system's broken. They know that the democracies that you believe in are not real. They know that corporations own everything. They understand this, and they are willing to stand in the fire, and they are willing to say enough is enough. So we would say, listen to your guidance. If standing up for yourself scares you so much that you pee your pants, then maybe you can't do it. But if standing up for yourself feels right, then get together with other people who also feel this way and ask yourselves, let's find out about the law. Let's find out what we are legally able to do here. Let's get the health information, the negative health consequences of smart meters. Let's get all of the liabilities. Let's get all of the information we can about smart meters bursting into flames or smart meters causing sickness. Let's get all that information together. And let's see if we can find somebody who will stand in court with us. You will feel less fear if you are in a group. This is why isolation works. This is why separation works, because it disempowers you. So find like-minded souls, find your courage, find the information, and find yourselves lawyers that will stand firm with you and speak for you in the legal systems of the countries in which you find yourselves. Or not. You can just cave in and let them do it. You can just go, oh, well, no, that's too much trouble. But your guidance will tell you. Your guidance will tell you if this is your battle. Now, in pure non-dualistic terms, there are beings that would say, you should never battle, you should never fight. We are not saying you are fighting against something. We are saying that you are standing up for your freedom, you are standing up for your health, and you are standing up for the right to have your home in a condition that you feel is the best for your family. You are standing up for what you want. So make sure that that's the frequency that you hold should you get together. Make sure that when you have public conversations with other people, that you say to them, we must hold firm for what we want, not just against something. Let's fire ourselves up for health. Let's fire ourselves up for communal action. Let's fire ourselves up for a better planet. Let's be positive. Let's get excited. Let's not be passive and doormats. We will return shortly. Okay. Oh, okay. Tea time. Comment about the trend towards earthing, that is walking barefoot and using pad and grounding. Oh, that's a good question. Why don't we do a spontaneous question? Let's ask Jesus about earthing. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and you have a natural world that ebbs and flows with the seasons. You have a natural world that feeds all of the creatures on it. Now we are going to exclude humans from this for a little while because the distortions in humans' minds have made them very, very difficult to feed and manage. So we're talking about wild creatures, insects, birds, fish, whales, all of these sorts of things. Take humans out of the picture, go back a few hundred years, let's say even to before the conquest of North America by the Western civilizations, quote unquote. They're not civilized at all. And we ask you to look at that natural world, how the tide comes in and tide comes out, and all the little creatures in that intertidal zone are perfectly designed to be in that intertidal zone. They are designed to swim when the tide's in, and they are designed to breathe air when the tide goes out. They have protection against the sun. They are all functioning beautifully. Look at the birds, look at the seasons, look at all of these natural elements, and you think, wow, what an amazing system that is. Yes, everything dies in the end, and everything requires something else to die for it to live. That is part of the ego's aspect of that natural world. But there is an amazing balance there. There is an amazing complexity, and there is an amazing connection between everything. And this is how humans have come in and destroyed many ecosystems. They say, well, let's just introduce rabbits here to get to eat the grass because the grass is too long. And lo and behold, the rabbits become so many that they destroy other ecosystems, and they think, oh, well, that wasn't such a good idea. So human interference, of course, is a perfect demonstration of what not to do most of the time. But as you become more and more natural, as you become rewilded, as our dear one so loves to say, you are going to connect more and more with the earth. One of the reasons we ask you to garden is not to necessarily just grow your own food. It is to experience the earth. When you are kneeling in your garden, planting seeds, you are earthing yourself. You are connected to Mother Earth. You are appreciating the miracle that you can put a seed in the ground and 4 months later, you've got beautiful watermelons. What an amazing experience. But all of the time that you're gardening, you are touching the ground. You are connecting. You are grateful. You are experiencing the wind, the sunlight, the birds that come and eat the worms. You are experiencing life in its most glorious, simple, and honest form. And that is earthing. It is not just the touching of the earth, but the being involved with the production of food, the production and care for animals, the looking after stewardship of water systems, making sure that they're not polluted. You can have a deep and meaningful connection to Mother Earth through these practices. So this is something that we would really like you all to assess. How are you doing? Do you just mow the lawn so that it looks nice for the neighbors? Or are you living and experiencing the property that you own? There are beings who have these beautiful homes on beautiful, even in subdivisions, beautiful lots, and they do not relish the joy and creativity and connection to nature that that land can provide them. Even if it's a small back garden, flower and vegetable plot, they're not getting that feedback. They are too disconnected. So if you are one of those beings who lives in a suburban environment and you're lucky enough to have a front garden and a back garden, take a look at what you're doing there. Are you actually engaging with Earth, or are you merely doing the tasks that have to be done so that you don't have to go outside again? We would really like you to begin to shift your thoughts about Mother Earth. You are connected to her profoundly. You are connected to Father, Son profoundly. These are physical manifestations of the masculine and the feminine. Neither one can you live without. And in perfect balance, they produce everything you need to live happily and joyfully. So we would like you to use your garden, the earthing idea, not just putting your feet on the earth, but truly engaging with earth as a healthful practice for making your life, your physical body, and your table a much healthier place to be. We will return shortly. Okie dokie. Okay, the next question is, I was doing lesson number 122 and it talks about forgiveness. To be honest, I'm not really sure how to forgive. How do you begin? What do you say or do? In lesson 121, instructions are given in the form of, now close your eyes and see him in your mind. Try to perceive some light in him, somewhere, a little gleam which you had never noticed. When I do this, I get a really vague image of the person. I don't see any light in that person, so I envision that person smiling. It somehow works, but I have the feeling I'm missing something here. Could Jesus or Ananda shed some light on this and give some practical examples or guidance? Okay, let's see what Jesus has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And the best way to start your forgiveness practice is to realize that you have a judgment practice. This is the thing that causes the disconnection from everything else. So we're not speaking just about forgiveness of people. That is generally where humans go first. They think, well, my Uncle Bob was nasty to me when I was a kid, and so he's my forgiveness practice. And that may be true if you hold a resentment for Uncle Bob. But we would like you to realize that forgiveness can be a way of being with everything. So we would like you to think about your day and how many judgments you have about certain things. And we would like you to understand that judgment is unforgiveness. It means that you don't like that thing. You have deemed it unacceptable. You have deemed it as something you want to remain separate from. And it is judgment that keeps the separation world going. It is judgment that feeds the ego, judgment which leads to war, internal or external, verbal or thought. War, lack of peace. And so for you as a beginner, we would like you to observe your judgments. We would like you to observe when you think, oh, she shouldn't have said that. Question those beliefs, question those judgments, and you will know that you've judged because you'll start to feel bad. And you will project it onto the thing that you have judged and say, well, if that wasn't happening, then I would not be upset. I would feel good if only that person, place, or thing would change. But we want you to know that you feel bad because you judged it. The error is not in them, it is in your assessment of that situation, person, place, or thing, assuming that you know that it would be better if it hadn't happened. That is not knowledge that you have. You are playing God. When you say that situation or that person should be different than the way they are, you are playing God and you are being very arrogant, and it is something to consider because most of you, when you actually are honestly assessing your own minds, will know that you are not qualified to decide whether or not things are truly good or bad, because many of you have actually had experiences in your own life where you were disappointed. That person that you were madly in love with went off with somebody else and married them, and you were heartbroken, you were devastated, you hated them. And then a few years later you think, thank heavens I didn't get that person. I was so wrong. So that is a very, very good experience for the beginner Course in Miracles student to think about. Think about how many times you've been wrong. You may have married the wrong person. You may have worked for the wrong person. You may have lived in the wrong place. And yet at some point you thought you were right. So it's very, very good for you to get a little bit humble and say, you know what, I've made a lot of mistakes where I thought I was for sure on the right track and I wasn't. And maybe I am not as wise as I think I am. Perhaps I should mind my own business a little bit. Perhaps I should focus on getting my mind peaceful. So that is how we would like you to look at your forgiveness practice. It is about getting your mind peaceful, which means then you are in a forgiving frequency. When your mind is at peace, you're not agitated, so you're not volatile. When your mind is at peace, it's easy to be kind, so you are more forgiving. That is a forgiving act, being kind. And if you're having trouble even understanding that, then we would say, just don't attack things. Just choosing not to spew your opinion, not just choosing not to gossip about someone, just choosing not to say nasty things in the mirror to yourself in the morning. Just withhold from that. And that is a forgiving act as well, because you are choosing actively, you're using your free will to say, I am not going to attack anybody today, including myself, including Mr. Trump or Mr. Brexit or whoever the televisions are telling you to judge. Stop it. They know what they're doing. They are cultivating a frequency of war within you. They know what they are doing. Be wise. Step back from judgment. Step back from attack. And if you cannot actively forgive somebody, at least do not attack them. That is a forgiving act in and of itself. And the more you do that, the more you will come to understand that every time you do attack someone, you feel bad. And then you realize that attacking somebody does not benefit the situation. It makes you feel awful. And you come to realize that you cause your own suffering by judging and attacking situations, people, places, and things. And as you are in the early phases of A Course in Miracles, in the early 100s, you must also come to see that you are not practiced yet. You are not masterful yet at this. You must let yourself be a beginner. And if all you get is a vague feeling of light in somebody when you imagine them, then accept, oh, okay, I'm in the early lessons here. I've got decades and lifetimes of conditioned programming to undo here, some bad habits. Let me be satisfied with a little change. Let me be satisfied with a little incremental shift. Oh, that feels a little bit better. Oh, I stopped myself attacking Aunt Susie in my head today. I'm really proud of myself. Normally, I just go at it for hours and hours and hours. But today, I caught myself 20 minutes into that. I started to feel bad. I started to realize what I was doing. And I pulled myself back from attack. And I said a loving prayer for her, even though I didn't believe it. You did something different. If you do something different, if you think something different, if you act differently, you will get a different experience. And that is what these lessons are leading all of you towards. They are leading you towards a new experience. And when you get a new experience based on the fact that you have changed your mind and changed your thoughts, you will realize, wow, my thoughts and my mind create my experience. What else can I change? What else can I shift? I must be able to shift everything in my life. If this one little change inside my mind caused this manifestation out in the world, my goodness, I can change anything. And it's true, you can change anything. And the more you change and the more loving you get and the more in alignment you get, the bigger your influence, the more power you have, and the less ego indulgences you participate in, the less treacherous that power is, because some people can get power and it can go to their heads and their egos use it in very negative ways. But if you do the lessons of A Course in Miracles as prescribed and practice as prescribed and listen to these recordings and do as we tell you, then you will begin to get a new experience of self-appreciation, self-empowerment, and you will become a much nicer, more influential being. So we hope that that answers your question, and we do encourage you to continue on with your lessons, all of you. And if you have finished your lessons, practice. Open that book once a day and pick a lesson and let that be your lesson for the day. And practice, practice, practice. And know that every time you get upset, you've made a judgment and you are playing God. So go in there and say, okay, what did I just do? I just said that person shouldn't do that. Do I know? Do I have any idea of what that person's destiny is? Do I have any idea of that person's past? Do I have any idea of the problems that person is dealing with? No, I don't. Maybe I need to just pay attention to my mind, and I need to pay attention to my lane and my passions and my happiness and the things that I want to thrive in my life. Let me do that, and let everyone else attend to their own frequency. And that one that you know is Jesus, and I will speak to you again at another time. Right. Okay, my lovelies, I'm going to end it there because I was pretty, it was, I won't say it was an anxious morning, but it was definitely on my mind whether or not this, this would work. So I am going to do a little edit on this recording so that you don't have all that annoying stuff in the beginning. I will upload it to YouTube, and I will send out an email with that link so everyone has it who is on our list. And at some point later in the week, it will go into the library. So if you want to re-listen to this, it will probably be up. It will probably be up on YouTube within the next 24 hours or so, and I will send a link out as soon as that is done. So thank you all for joining me today. I'm so happy that this worked. And next weekend, I am in retreat on Salt Springs, so we will have some wonderful new recordings for you shortly after that. So my guess is, in terms of dates, let me just look at my calendar. My guess is that we will do a session on the 15th and the 29th. That's approximate, so it could change, but we'll be doing it in the second half of the month because the first half of the month is retreat. And I do want to just mention here, we do have one space left on Salt Spring, and it is for a man in a shared accommodation. So if you've been feeling like you need to do something drastic and you're bored and you would like an adventure, there is one spot left for a male on our Salt Spring event, which starts on the 6th to the 11th of September. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate you, and I look forward to the new and exciting changes that Channeling Jesus and Ananda are going to go through. Thank you all, and I'll see you again in a few weeks. Bye-bye.